Okay, technicians know that it takes 50 grams roughly to hold down a key before it comes back up. So if we just put the minimal amount of down force to holding force to hold that key to keep it from coming up, that should be roughly 50 grams. And I've got a kitchen scale over here. This is not very scientific about how I'm regulating this, but I'm gonna try to hold about the same feel down, and it's 54, 55 grams on the scale. You can't see the registry the way I have the camera, but I'm reading roughly 47 to 50 grams for the same amount of force I'm using to hold down that key. Now, if I give the key a big impact, and then I let go to that 50 gram feel, how much does that initial impact on my scale? It's roughly a half a kilogram, and there's roughly 450, 500 grams of weight on that. Remember, there's 453 grams per pound, so it takes a pound of force to get that volume of sound initially. And that will be a force that goes into transferred to the hammer, and a hammer velocity. The volume of the piano is all related to hammer velocity, and hammer velocity is all related to the downforce, the initial downforce of the weight. So that all works. Yep, roughly 500 grams, or half a pound, 453. Okay, so I go louder, even louder. What is that force? It's maybe 700, 800 grams. So it's almost 2 pounds. And there's a book written in 1925 by Otto Ortmann, a researcher, who actually calibrated the relative volume of the piano from the hammer velocity to the downforce on the key required to get that volume. And it goes up to several pounds. A concert pianist will use several pounds of downforce on the down weight of a fortissimo passage. But then that has to immediately be released for the holding of the key down to roughly 50 grams. So that impulse of force reflects up through the arm and through the arm muscle. And I'm going to show you, if I just play from the bridge, just finger motion. You don't see, I have a lean arm here, so you can see the tricep and the deltoid are not really moving. But if I go, there's a big impulse going through the tricep and up into the deltoid, and then it lets go. See that deltoid? You can see the reflection coming through this arm, up into the tricep and right up into the deltoid, and then it lets go. Because I'm holding it now with the minimum force of 50 grams. But that initial downforce at that volume is probably 500 grams or a pound. So we've got an initial impulse of 1 pound or 500 grams of force that has to be equal and opposite matched from the finger up through here. And so there's no question that's what's going on. So even with the most relaxed arm, you're going to get the relaxation comes from holding it down at 50 grams, not from the initial downforce of that. There's no way to get that volume without that downforce, and there's no way to get that downforce and that hammer velocity to get that volume without an equal amount of downforce linearly proportional to the hammer velocity. So that's definitely some of the dynamics that are going on. If I go just from the bridge, now I go. Now what's interesting here is because the thumb has more power in its thumb muscle, you can still see it as reflected up through the tricep and up through the deltoid and then letting go. Now let's go to 50 grams because I'm only holding it barely to 50 grams. But but that's, roughly 500 grams to 50 grams, 10 times more initial downforce to get that volume than this. The initial volume of the softest note is not much more than that 50 gram initial holding weight.